accomplish and do what you're suggesting?
That's the interesting thing about hypnosis and NLP, is it really takes 3 to 4 sessions for most things. It depends on, a lot of times they come to me for something and we end up finding a backlog of things, so we chunk it a little bit. But the most is 10 sessions for anything. People do life coaching where they come in, get the change, and they'll come like once a month or every 6 months. They just do a brain tune-up, we call it. But let's say stop smoking, weight loss, a career shift, anything like that is 3 to 4 sessions.
Before we get to another question, you were talking about words. Can you drill down on it? Because everywhere I go, I hear people talking, and words create things twice.
Right.
Once in your brain, and then the behavior of it.
Right.
And the words that people use, they don't realize what they're using. Maybe you want to drill down a little bit on that.
Okay, words. We say a word, and our subconscious mind has a definition for it. So whatever definition our brain has for that word, that's the response we're going to get. But if we think we say the word and we want a different response, our programming's different. So the two actions that we get, that's what we were talking about earlier. You are what you think. A thought creates a physical reaction. Well, the thought is a word. So you're reacting to it. So like, let's say I use the crazy one, but there's another word that I really attempt to teach as many people about as I can, is the word sorry. How many times do you say the word sorry when you really mean excuse me? But to 88% of the brain, it means no good, worthless, rotten. So on the conscious level, the analytical mind knows you're apologizing. On the 88, it means you're telling yourself you're worthless. They have done some studies to where people that say they're sorry all the time have a very low self-esteem, very low confidence, and they look down a lot because they're always saying they're sorry. And their brain's taking the definition. That's a good word to do like that. There's another word too. The subconscious mind doesn't hear don't or not. If you say, don't think about the black horse right now, how many people are thinking about the black horse? It's a proven fact. You want to say it how you want it. You know, I'm not going to eat that piece of cake. That's because 88% of the brain does not get don't or not. You can Google that and find the scientific studies of that. So take don't and not out of your vocabulary. If you want to accomplish something, say it the way you want it.
That's strong. I have people who use the word, I'm going to try to do that.
It tries another one. I write about that. In my books, I have all about the words and everything. Try, I remember the first teacher that taught me that, he threw a pen on the floor. He says, try to pick it up. The whole front row fighting over picking up the pen to be a good student. And he threw it again. The third time, nobody got up. When you're trying, you're not doing. When you do it, you're doing it. You're not trying. So take try out of your vocabulary. That's a good
Question?
one.
You had a question? Yes.
First of all, Laura, that was great. You did a great presentation.
Thank you, Penny.
I wanted to know with the CD, you were talking about listening to the CDs when you sleep. If you listen to the CD in the car, is that
Yeah, right, Penny. She's so cute. Please avoid listening to the CD in the car. I will hypnotize you. I promise you. A friend of mine in California went to Rosarian with me. She's a agent out there. And so she got my first CD. She says, oh, it's great driving to work in the LA traffic. And I'm like, Chrissy, please don't. A week later, she calls. She says, Laura, I can't drive this. I said, do you think that's why there's a warning on it? You avoid driving or operating heavy equipment.
Is there certain words you use for hypnotizing people?
Relax.
Okay. Any other questions? Yes.
Yeah, I'm curious, you said that you worked at the oncology center. I'm wondering what kind of success rate you had.
She asked a question about the oncology center. Well, what we did, there's a book up here called Hypnosis Getting Through Illness. It was created to be hypnosis for wellness because there are a lot of scientific studies out there, a lot of other books written right now where mindfulness, mind-body connection that you can heal. After working at the Sari Center for 4 years, I'm of another belief that it's not in our control to do that, but we can help people sustain a better life while they're going through what they're going through. We can help them have better treatments, and it was great for pain management. They have proven that with hypnosis you take less anesthesia and you heal twice as fast. Okay, so I write about it in all facets of survival, passing, grieving for children. We cover the whole facet of it. Can hypnosis help you heal? I'm going to sit up here and say yes, because I have sat in my chair and watched people that were given 2 months live another 5, 10 years and go in remission when it was not expected. Was it because I healed them? I can never legally say that. I helped them. Yes.
Yes, Bill.
What would you say to critics that say there's a dark side to hypnosis?
A dark side, I get asked because of its anti-Christ God, is that in the Bible it talks about relaxing and accessing that part of the brain, and really I just believe that the word hypnosis got a negative connotation with stage hypnosis, because what people fail to learn or realize is that nobody can be hypnotized unless they want to. The other part of that is you go in and out of it all the time anyway. It's the lack of information. It's what you know is what you know, what you don't know is what you don't know. So I've learned to say, well, you just need to learn something about it. If you need me, I'm here. Because I come from a good source of doing it, which you know that. And in reality, you can't make someone do something they don't want to. That's called torture. And you torture by sleep deprivation. You torture in other ways. You can do that. I don't do any of that in my office. And really, it is just what you do anyway. I think it's learning that. So you can call it guided meditation, you can call it guided imagery, it's all the same thing. You know, I know at the Sari Center when I did my meditation classes, called meditation guided imagery. It's anytime you close your eyes and visualize, scientifically you're going into a state of hypnosis. You know, I tell people, they ask me, and I go, well, do you believe that lady that runs across the screen on your TV turns into a werewolf? Do you believe we can turn into werewolves too? You know, so it's really just accepting the facts, learning the truth, and being realistic to whether you want change. And some people might have a lot of self-sabotage that somebody offering change is not going to be, it's going to be incongruent with their belief system because they're destined to be miserable.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to be miserable. I've been there, done that.
Yes, sir.
Hi, I'm Woody Thomas, and I happened to meet Laura King out at a restaurant.
At a bar. Cafe Chardonnay.
And,
So did I.
Yes, you did.
You're there all the time.
Oh my goodness. That's where I eat dinner, y'all.
would you talk about how you work with children and families about their issues?
Children. A lot of, in today's world, everything is learned quickly, fastly with the internet things, and their brains are expected to do this. They go to class and they have to learn at our normal speed of life, talking. So their brain doesn't adjust to that. So they're usually prescribed some sort of medication. I have become a good resource for people because I can hypnotize a kid to focus. And I don't know that you know this, Woody, but when I met Dorothy, my mentor, the lady that saved my life, I had pretty much I wouldn't use the word flunked out, I D'd out of college. I didn't make S, but I made a lot of D's. And I really had a hard time test taking, and I had a hard time somewhere in I remember my junior year of high school, a teacher convinced me I was a horrible test taker. So when I met Dorothy, after she saved my life, and I worked with her, I went back to college. And I used her LEARN program, concentration, recall, test taking, good study habits, and that's how I completed college. So I have all of her material, and I help lots of children focus, recall, become awesome test takers. I'll tell this real quick ditty. This little 10-year-old that came in last week, he has a C on his report card. His parents have almost disowned him. So his grandmother brought him to me. A C, guys, in 6th grade. Anyway, don't get my opinion on that. I hypnotized him. If he made an A on the next math test, he would bring his grade up to a B minus. He came in on Wednesday, and he's grinning and grinning. He's carrying something for me. We get in the room, and I go ask the grandmother, do you need to talk? She says, no, he's got enough for you. So we go in the room and sit down. He sits on the chair, and he goes, I made 110 points on that test. And he drew me a picture to say thank you. All I did was hypnotize him, tell him he sat down, and answer the questions and breathe and did recall. You have a set thing to do, and it changed his life. So yes, kids are awesome. And then communication with kids. The simple thing I taught y'all about words and different things, and the don't not, teaching a parent that is unbelievable. They change their lives. And then if a kid still isn't doing what you ask them to do, find out if they're a visual learner, auditory learner, or a kinesthetic learner. Most kids are visual because that's how they're learning. So put the rules up on a bulletin board so they can see it. I took one family, I saw the husband, the wife, and the 2 boys, and they were explosive. 2 boys, yes. So she had 3 men in the house. We took and found out what each one needed to do. They were all 3 auditory. Went from a screaming household to a happy household just by visually seeing the chores that were expected of them. That was the only change.
If I may, I'm attorney Woody Thomas. I have a doctorate in education. I'm producing a family talk show in magazine format, fashioned after Sunday morning on CBS. In fact, Rick Blackwell is one of my hosts, and I've asked this charming woman if she would be one of my co-hosts as well, to work with families in a weekly episode. This lady is awesome. I've studied everything. She's
I was shocked when I saw him walk in.
She really needs a national platform so that these ideas get transferred to people and they can get the skill sets they need to move their lives forward, whether they're kids or adults or whatever. So if anybody would like to be a sponsor on the program, please see me after this. Thank you.
Do you have a question?
Certainly from what you've talked today, you can see how hypnosis is very helpful from a self standpoint. How about NLP from the standpoint of affecting an audience, such as yourself in this audience, or a politician, for example, talking to a crowd using NLP?
Well, Clinton was an expert at NLP. It's used a lot. NLP, neuro-linguistic programming, is a communication skill of using the techniques I showed you of communication. There are certain facets of it, like, talking about something really good and saying yes and then pointing to yourself. So your brain associates really good to me. It's done. Or if there's something bad, putting it over here. I did a little bit of it. I tend to stick to my PowerPoint and keep on subject. But like something bad, you put over here. Like you'll talk about it like it's a separate entity, something good here. So you can formulate in the brain, and it's really good with sales. We just did a 2-day sales class on it, on communication, how people look, how people think. If someone's imagining what they're doing, they look up. If they're doing something else, they look down. There's a whole science to it that I teach, and that's for communication for sales. Good question. Did I answer it? It's used a lot.
I think so. Just imagine, I've seen time and again where someone's giving a presentation and everybody's down there looking at their cell phone. How do you, again, draw that attention so that you can...
I think really good question, how do you get people's attention? I mentioned going to the city to speak the first time. I bet you 3/4 of people were looking at their cell phone. By the 3rd sentence of what I said, everybody was looking at me because I saw that and I thought quickly, what could I activate every brain in that room to pay attention to me? And it was asking how many woke up that morning and thought that they had to get dressed. Just that one statement made the brain think, wait a minute, what does she have to say? Of course I got dressed to come here. I had one person laughed at me when I said that, and it was a phone call from a lawyer in Tampa. He says, you are the hardest person to get on the phone because you're booked all the time. I said, yes. And he says, what do you do? And I said, I'm a hypnotist. And he chuckled. And so I started to give my little spiel about hypnosis. And my first spiel was that about the clothing. He says, well, not where I grew up. And I went, huh? He says, my parents own the nudist colony over here. And I went, oh, you had to get hypnotized to do the other. And he says, my girlfriend didn't like it. I had to sell it. I thought that's stuck in my mind. Very unusual.
What is the most common fear that you encounter? Because I know you like fear of flying. You can resolve that very easily. What is the most
common fear is the question. You know what's very interesting about that is people will fear. Let's say something real quick. 9 out of 10 times, fear is created in the subconscious mind. It's not real because the imagination's stronger than knowledge, okay? So if someone has a fear of a spider, and the spider's as big as this little lint thing right there, and they can come in my room and I could point that that's a spider, their imagination thinks it's a real spider and they're sitting with their feet up in my chair. Now, is that real or is that imagined? It's imagined. So fear really gets created in the 88%, so we can go in the 88% and minimize it just using the same way it got created, but only with hypnosis, because logically the 12% cannot do that. So the question is the most common fear I get. I get all kinds, from bees. I had one lady who came to me for lotuses, so I came in with a picture of a grasshopper and I got a 10-minute lecture that they're different. She bought a house somewhere west of out here, and lotuses were in her front patio and walking up to her front door. She couldn't get to the door of her new house. So I hypnotized her and she could go in her house. So fear, there are other fears too that keep people from being successful. Fear of success. Fear of being a salesperson. I gave that metaphor.
Fear of public speaking.
Fear of public speaking. Boy, I had that one. To think about it, the mind can be changed. I think that's the, oh, look at the osprey. Oh, that's a buzzard, never mind. I have a thing for birds, so whenever a bird flies by, it catches my eye. I do. Somebody that knows me really well. Did I answer everybody's questions?
David has one.
Where do you draw the line between great self-confidence and self-delusion?
I love this.
Wow.
Thank you for asking it.
Before you, can you repeat the question so I can get it on the tape?
Go ahead, Chet.
Where do you draw the line between self-confidence and self-delusion?
I use the word expert. I would like to shift people to think about just being the best of what you can be and not being boasting, rude, socially unacceptable, and thinking you're the only thing since sliced bread. It's really just a belief system, and I think if you add passion to the equation, it shifts you a lot. If you really like what you're doing and you're happy doing it. So I have to say hypnosis helps you be happy doing what you do because you add that to the equation. So instead of just being so self-confident that you're narcissistic and don't care about anybody else on the face of the earth, shift it, and that's what I do a lot of, to being the expert and having passion in what you do. There's a difference.
There's a lot of books out there. Even politicians read a lot of books, and there's a book that I just picked up called Words That Work.
Yeah.
And the whole book is about the words that work for politicians. If you ever want to read what you're being hypnotized on TV, you're being hypnotized constantly.
You're hypnotized everywhere. Anybody ever driven somewhere and they got there and they went, oh, I'm here? Yeah. That's what they were saying. They did a whole thing about that on the news the other day about someone that ran into a train. He was in driving hypnosis. That's what it was.
That should be your next book about words.
Yes.
One more question back there.
Yeah, what is the rate of remission on hypnosis, and also is hypnosis used on autistic children?
The question is, what is the rate of remission, and is it used on autistic children?
Autistic children, I've had the opportunity to work with 2 in my career, and I help them tremendously. There are a lot of hypnotists across the United States and in some scientific venues, a Mayo Clinic and I forgot the other place, that are using it and working with it. It's becoming, the studies are really where they're taking and using the hypnosis and then doing MRIs to see the brain changing, and there's a lot of science coming up that I believe is going to bring some more stuff to the forefront for autism and for all disabilities like that. The only thing about hypnosis, you still have to have someone that'll follow instructions. So it depends on the level of the autism is what I discovered with the kids I worked with and how I could attract their attention to it. Hypnosis is a way of change. Do you have to reinforce it? Yes. Now think of why you would have to reinforce it. Has anybody watched the news lately? Has anybody read the paper lately? We're inundated with negativity. For the 150,000, 350,000 words and images we take in a day, About 300,000 of them are negative in the environment that we live in right now. Unless you're isolated and unless you learn how to protect yourself from it. And unless you have techniques and tools to release it out of your brain. Your brain absorbs everything. There are so many studies right now of how incredible, they can't make a computer as strong as our brain. So if you think about that, the way of accessing it and making a shift, you do still have to reinforce it unless you go live in the woods and you don't see anybody or watch TV or get the news. Then you can keep it.
Thank you very much for being here. If you could do one little thing, one little nugget of a freebie, what would you say to us to have a very powerful, confidential day today?
I would say figure out what your passion is with something that you do. We don't have to like 100% of the job we have, but focus in on one thing that is really makes you feel good. Then you do the rest of it so you get to do that one part. I love hypnotizing people. I left on Wednesday at 8 p.m. and drove home and made dinner. Happy camper. I have a difficult time running my office because my brain can't do that and hypnotize at the same time. So I have to use my passion that I have for hypnotizing people to motivate me to keep going with an office and keep going. So I have to borrow that passion, so I can't do one without the other. So use them and put them together and be able to put your passion into everything that you do. It'll make everything easy. And then go to Staples and buy an easy button and put it on your desk and hit it every morning when you walk into your office. That's easy.
And if you have a golf problem, definitely come
Yes.
and see you, which most of us do. Thank you, Laura.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Again, give her a big hand.